Kamala Harris is currently experiencing a polling surge that isn't sustainable. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today we have to talk about the 2024 presidential election because people on both sides, yes, that includes Republicans, are going crazy over the recent polling, which, yes, I can understand why. Right now, it seems like Kamala Harris is experiencing a polling surge. But the more you look at this quote-unquote surge Harris has, you really begin to wonder, is this really a polling surge for Harris? Because a lot of the data points that we're seeing within the polls, it makes you really wonder about it. Now, I want to be clear that I am not denying the possibility that this surge, it could last. I'm not denying that. But I want to go over the current data and explain why I believe, as of now, this polling surge, it's not sustainable. It's just not. Is it possible it could be sustainable? I guess. But as of now, I don't think it is. Now let's go over the top line, where Trump, as of now, in the RCP average, is up by 1 point. Yeah, that's right. People are making it sound like Harris is up by 15 points. Nope. Right now, in the national polling, Trump is up by 1 point. And that's with an absolutely trash poll from Civics, where they had Harris +4, and they did the crap of, it's a D+5 electorate, and crap like that. But outside of that, every single poll has either been within a margin of error, or a Trump lead. Every single one of them. So this idea that this Harris surge, which, yes, when you scroll down here, when Biden dropped out, he was down by 3 points. It is better. Currently, Trump's up by 1.5 points. But the problem is, Trump is still winning. Does no one see the problem for Harris? This surge Harris had, which is true, she had a surge, it still has her down in most polls. That's a fact. That's what's happening right here. Trump is still winning in the RCP average by 1 point. What does that tell you? It tells me that this surge Harris has seen, which, yes, it's there, all it really did was raise the floor. Like, look at this. When Biden dropped out, he was polling at around 45%. Okay, it's not good. Right now, Harris is polling at 46.5%. Look at Trump's number. Right now, it's just under 48%. When Biden dropped out, it was right below 48%. That's a big deal, because it shows you that, yes, Trump's lead has gotten smaller, but it's not because a bunch of Trump voters bailed from the campaign and decided to break for Harris. No. All that happened was a bunch of undecided voters that were probably going to vote Democrat either way decided now to support Harris. But that's what it seems like happened. It does not seem like a huge shift for Harris where a bunch of Trump voters bailed from the campaign. It really doesn't. It really shows a Trump lead that's smaller, but it's still there. It's still a Trump +1 lead. And in that environment, Trump wins the Electoral College quite easily. So right off the bat, you could tell that this surge Harris is getting, yes, it might be there, but you could argue all that she did was raise the floor for Democrats where, okay, they might win Virginia. They're going to hold on to Minnesota. Congratulations. You're still losing Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania in this environment. I mean, seriously, how do people really believe this idea that Trump can win the popular vote but somehow lose a state like Pennsylvania? How? How is that even possible? It's not. So right off the bat, you could tell that, yes, Harris's floor has gone up. But that seems to be the only significant change between before Biden dropped out versus after. The floor just raised for Harris, and that's it. And you look at the individual polls, and you realize there's only 2 polls right now in the RCP average that have Harris above 48%. One from Forbes and one from Civics. Outside of that, she is at 48% or less. Hell, most polls have her at 47, 46, 45%. That's not a consistent, 20-point lead some people were claiming. Now, to be fair, this is just one average. Like, okay, Trump is up by only a point in the national polling, but let's look at the statewide polling. Let's start with Wisconsin. Oh, look at that. Even with that garbage morning consult poll from Bloomberg, Trump is still up. It's very close, but he's still winning. If that Bloomberg poll wasn't in the average, he would be up by a point. Okay, that's one state. But let's look at other ones. Let's look at Nevada. Oh, wait. You take out that Bloomberg poll, and I know there's only one poll on here. Trump's up by 10, but even with the Bloomberg poll, he's up by 4. All right, let's keep going. Arizona. Oh, Trump plus 4. Once again, with that trash Bloomberg poll. Georgia. Trump plus 3. Pennsylvania. Trump plus 2. Michigan. Biden or Harris plus 2. And that's with what could very well be the Biden plus 17 in Wisconsin of 2024 from Bloomberg. Does anyone really believe Harris is winning Michigan by 11? Does anyone believe that? Hell no. Okay, so right off the bat, just on the statewide polling, Harris is doing better. She is doing better than Biden. Fine. But in most of the swing states, according to RCP, she's down in most of them by a couple points. All right, so she's doing better, but not as good as she needs to be doing. So the more you look at just the statewide polling, you look at the national polling, you realize Harris is still down. She is still losing despite everyone claiming she's gone up 15 points. Like the favorability. Look at this. Before Biden dropped out, she was at negative 16 favorability. Right? She was not liked. But right now, it's negative 7. It's been cut in half. Despite her polling seeing a surge on the favorability level, by a lot, she is still losing by a point. She is still losing most of the swing states by a point or so. It's not looking too good for Harris when you look more at the actual polling data, not just one pollster. When you look at the average, you begin to realize Trump has a lead in most of the states. Now, some people are going to claim, well, okay, this is just the start of the momentum for Harris. That her lead's just going to expand. That she's going to eventually win Wisconsin by 15 points. That's the argument many people are going to use, that she's going to have momentum for the entire cycle. Well, I don't think so. Is it possible? Yes, I could see where that happens, where she doesn't do any interviews, nothing. She's in the basement for 3 months. Maybe the media keeps up the momentum. But at some point, the average voter, they're going to look at it and say, what's going on here? But why isn't Harris taking any interviews? No questions, nothing? It's going to happen where they have to eventually ask questions. They can't just ignore her for the entire cycle. So, okay, let's just say right now, Harris has gone up by 3 to 4 points. All right, let's just be generous and say she's doing 3 to 4 points better everywhere, which is not necessarily true, but okay, 3 to 4 points better. Here's the problem. We have historical data from 2008, 2012, hell, 2016, where a major event occurred and one of the candidates experienced a surge that didn't last. Let's go to 2008. All right, 2008, McCain, before he picked Palin at the RNC, was down by about 3 points. After the RNC, he was up by 3. Do people really think McCain was leading Obama by 3 just because he picked Palin? No. And this, in my opinion, might be one of the better examples of what I'm saying, a response bias. All that really happened after McCain picked Palin and had the RNC was a bunch of Republicans were more enthusiastic, like, hell yeah, we're gonna vote for McCain-Palin. We're enthusiastic. We're gonna take polls more often. Which, by the way, plenty of pollsters have admitted, yeah, we are seeing Democrats taking polls at much higher rates. Okay, it's only one example. It's just the convention bump, which, by the way, just proves a point. But either way, okay, fine, it's one example. 2012. Before the first debate, Romney was getting his ass kicked. He was down by 3 to 4 points. But after the debate, he was up by a point when he just kicked the crap out of Obama. Once again, do people really believe this surge that Romney had? Do people really think it was natural? Do they really think this was sustainable? Or, and this is the more likely scenario, what happened was, after the first debate, there was response bias. And that's why we saw Romney surge. Seriously, he went from being down by 4 to winning by 1. And even the final polls had Romney down by only 1, just under 1. He lost by 4. So the polling before the first debate was spot on. All right, Obama up by 4. He won by 4 points. 2016. Remember the conventions in the summer? After the RNC, Trump went from being down by 3 to being up by 1. And after the DNC, it went from being like tied to Clinton plus 7. Hell, even after Hollywood Access tapes leaked, it went from Trump or Clinton plus 3 to like Clinton plus 7. These are recent examples. Is it possible a bunch of voters changed their minds? Maybe. But more than likely, this was just a response bias. Where in each of these scenarios, in 2012, a bunch of Republicans, they were more enthusiastic. They're more likely to take polls. That's why the polling had a much closer race than it was. 2008, same deal. 2016. We saw it happen 3 times. 3. In the same cycle. Within like 2 to 3 months. Again, it's possible that this is a long-term surge for Harris. But these are 3 elections in the last 20 years where the same thing occurred. Where one candidate had a quote-unquote surge, but in reality it really wasn't a surge. It was just, oh, Republicans are more likely to take polls after the RNC, which may explain a convention bump, and vice versa for Democrats. That's what I think's happening here. All that's really occurring is a bunch of voters, they're more likely to say, I'm going to vote for Harris, but in reality, they're not going to. And you think I'm kidding? Look at this poll from Rasmussen. I know Rasmussen's not perfect, but look at the day-by-day numbers. They polled every single day the past week. Right when Harris announced, they had Trump up by 16. And again, these are small sample sizes, so margin of error, I get it. Well, the second day, it was Trump plus 6. Third day, Harris plus 3. And then, after a couple days of Harris doing way better, towards the end, Trump started to do better again. What does that tell you? It tells me that there is a chance of a response bias, where a bunch of, Democrat-leaning voters, they're finally admitting they're going to vote for Harris. Or it's a bunch of independents that, they just hated Biden so much that they're just thankful they got rid of him. They're like, oh my goodness, we got rid of Biden? I want to vote for Harris. These are just other examples. We can keep going. There was a poll released by Jail Partners, and they asked voters to describe Kamala Harris in one word. Look at this. Ignore the Democrat side for a second. Who cares what they have to say? Look at independents. The number one thing they said was incompetent. Then they said liberal, fake, terrible, horrible, ridiculous. Yes, there's some positives like strong, intelligent. I get it, but there's only a couple of those. But the vast majority of this is negative takes on Kamala Harris. Vast majority of them. They don't like her. Yes, independents are showing a surge for Harris, but when you ask them, describe Kamala Harris to us, they don't like her. What does that tell you? If they're telling you, we think she's incompetent, we think she's fake, terrible, ridiculous, do you really, and they say we actually have a somewhat favorable opinion of Harris, do you really think those voters think that they like her? It's possible, but I find it so unlikely for that to occur that I just don't think it will. So the more you look at this surge Harris is showing, again, a surge of quotation, it looks more like a response bias. It looks more like, oh, Harris raised the floor, but she didn't actually change the race where she's going to swing Wisconsin 15 points Democrat, like some people are claiming. Again, I'm not denying the idea that Harris's surge, it could keep up. But the more you look at this, the more you realize it's probably not sustainable. But on top of all of that, the one thing I think that's going to eventually kill this momentum for Harris, the quote-unquote momentum, are the actual issues. Look at this poll from Richard Barris. Outside of 3 issues, Donald Trump is absolutely wiping the floor with Harris. Economy, inflation, immigration, law and order. Hell, even, what is that one? Yeah, crime and safety he's up by. Threats to democracy, he's up by a point. The war in Israel, he's up by 20. Outside of abortion, outside of labor issues, and I think Social Security, yeah. Trump is absolutely demolishing Harris on every single issue. In other words, the issues people care about, the things people will actually vote on, not that Harris is a brat, I'm going to vote for her because of that. The average voter doesn't think like that. They're going to think, but what's the most important issue? Oh yeah, the border. I'm terrified about the border, and I trust Trump on that issue way more than Harris. And you can even look at the number 1 issue for voters. The vast majority of them said it was either inflation, immigration, or the economy. It's like 66% or something crazy like that. It's over 60% that said it's either the economy, immigration, and inflation. You know, 3 issues Democrats are getting killed on right now. Yeah. Outside of that, I really don't see how this surge can be sustainable. Because when you look at the actual issues, Trump is killing Harris on every single one of them. You look at history of these other quote-unquote bumps that happened, they didn't last long. I mean, seriously, 2008, 2012, 2016. And on top of all of that, the voters themselves don't like Harris. But somehow her numbers are going up by 15 points? I highly doubt that. We do got to see what happens. I guess it's possible for a huge surge to happen for Harris, I guess, where she wins by 5. It's possible. But the more you look at it, the more you realize, yeah, she's doing better, but it doesn't look like she's doing good enough. But we just got to see what happens. Maybe in 3 weeks, Harris takes a 6-point lead in the RCP average. We got to see what happens. I doubt it, but I guess it's possible. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.